Hello, Leah.
Hello, everybody. Look at you in your Catholic school uniforms. It's bringing back memories.
Philly Catholic girl.
Yeah,
Here.
I'm from Philly. I got to go to Catholic school for 12 years. Last 4 was all girls. So that had its pros and its cons. The pros were we could look like crap every day and we didn't care. I don't know what it's like going to a co-ed school if you guys give a crap these days or not. I personally didn't give a crap who was around, so I just wore what I did. But so yeah, that's where I'm from. So who are the art students in the class?
Well, you're all art students, but I specifically meant you and you. Yeah.
So what are you guys the art students? What are you concentrating on?
Painting. I
Paint?
do a lot of painting. Yeah.
Why don't you show her? Go bring it up.
Yeah, show me. Bring it up. Oh, that's great. Oh, I like that. There we go. I like that cherry.
It's a peach.
I like well.
Well,
I thought it was a peach, and then I thought it's whatever.
I mean,
Beautiful.
it's pink.
Nice,
it's
nice
red.
gesture.
Yeah.
There's a nice gesture in that peach.
Yeah, it's a big derriere. Yeah.
Wonderful job. And who's the other? Anybody else a painter or?
But I didn't know what he was referring to. I think I'm just Mr. Austin's favorite.
Oh.
I don't know what makes me an art student.
Don't
Well,
you-
what do you? I mean,
I'm not, no.
oh, you're not. No, I was just asking who is in the room that's actually making art or is concentrating on art right now. All right, that dude, you keep on raising your hand. Hey, buddy, what do you do?
I do a little bit of everything.
Is it what?
We made a quilt a while ago. We made a collage. We do painting sometimes.
So you enjoy it?
Yeah, I do.
Very cool.
So I guess now they're answering that everyone in the class, see, I offended them, where I offended them. They're all art students in this class, and we have made a bunch of stuff. So that's what he's saying, a little bit of everything.
Oh, that's
So-
great. That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. So anyway, I took some art classes in high school. I went to Catholic school, so they didn't really have much money to throw at us art freaks. So we made with what we had to do, but I wasn't really until college afterwards until I really started getting into it. I thought I was going to go into telecommunications after high school. And then I came to realize it was a lot of behind the scenes stuff and me not on camera. So that didn't work for me. So after I graduated high school, I did some community college stuff with the telecommunications to bang out some of the credits. So I didn't have to spend a ton of money when I went to the university. So I was just trying to get the gen eds out of the way. With that, I went to Kutztown University, which is like a fun state school in Pennsylvania. Lots of hippies, lots of drum circles. I had a blast. I didn't do very well. So I went back to community college. I mean, I'm being totally blunt, man. I'm not like I did this, I did that, and I did everything right. No, I made a lot of mistakes. And the mistakes really made me and my art what it is today. So anyway, when I went back after screwing up at Kutztown, let's be real, I went back to community college and I just took a pottery class and I loved it. I fell in love with it. The wheel, the hand building. It was great for my stress. I didn't even realize how much stress I had back then. But then looking back, I'm like, wow, I understand why this pottery was so therapeutic to me. But it also opened me up to what I really like to do is like sculpture. I like to work with three-dimensional forms. Drawing is not my forte. You know, I can get by. I do some illustrations. People like them. I think they're not the best, but you know, art is in the eye of who's looking at it. So you know, I do a little bit of this and that. So while I was doing the pottery, I really loved it. And within that time too, after high school, so I got into a band I don't know if you guys know about them. They're called Fish with a PH. Anybody down with the Fish? No? Well, anyway, it's a hippie group. And back in the 90s, when I started following these guys around, there was a lot of hemp jewelry going around and Fimo beads and things like that. So I picked it up and I loved it. And I started making a bunch of necklaces. I was selling them to like kids on campus, selling them when I was going to shows, stuff like that, and really got into it. And then started teaching myself other things like wire wrapping stones, making my own beads, things like that. So, unbeknownst to me, I really got into jewelry and making accessories. So, anyway, left the community college, went back to Kutztown because I was ready to do good in school. I was so ready. I changed my major. I'm going to be a jeweler. That's what I'm doing. I'm going to learn here. Went back to Kutztown. I started taking the classes. I started to do all those gen eds and stuff. And I didn't do great. You know, I wasn't focused. It's not what I wanted to do. So I did a semester there. I didn't do horrible, but I was like, I'm wasting my money and I'm not getting what it's putting out for me. So I did a semester and then I wound up finding a job at a place, jewelry place. And what they did, they manufactured like costume jewelry. So I got a job there and I learned some little basics of like joining and like making necklaces and following patterns and stuff like that. So with that and then the stuff I was doing on my own, I was like, I'm in it. I really, really want to be in this business. So I was at Kutztown. There was nothing to offer me up there. I needed the city. I'm an alternative kind of chick. I need some action. I don't need to be around a bunch of, you know, townies, you know, that are looking at me crazy. So I wound up moving down to Philly and I got into a school called Moore College of Art and Design. All girls school. I had no clue it was an all girls school when I applied, and after I was accepted, I found out. I was like, okay, here I go again. I'm used to it. That's fine. And it was great. So went into Moore, and I had to take a bunch of drawing classes and things like that I've taken previously. And so while I was in school, I figured, you know, I need a job. And, you know, I went for some waitressing jobs, things like that. Hated it, and I was like, if I want to be in this industry, I should put myself in this industry. So I'm lucky where I'm from. Where I'm from, we have a place called Jewelers Row. Jewelers Row, I don't know if you can see behind me, it says Save Jewelers Row up here in that red thing. So Jewelers Row is the oldest diamond district in the country. Before New York, all that. That was the birthplace of the jewelry in Philadelphia, and it is still a functioning street with manufacturers, jewelers, jewelry stores. It has been shrinking because of many different reasons, lots of older jewelers retiring, the city being money hungry and turning those studios into apartments. They actually just knocked down one of the main buildings on the street that one of my good friends has been in for 30 years. They wound up selling the building. It housed about 15 jewelers. They wound up selling the building. And all these jewelers that were in there for like 30 years. They sold it to Toll Brothers. They had like 2 years when it all went through to get out. So they knocked the building down. And this was 4-5 years ago. It's basically a hole on the street with a fence around it because they never did anything with it. So that was like really disheartening. So Jewelers Row is definitely an institution. It's shrunk a lot, but it still has that, you know, that old school feel of people making things with their hands, everybody knowing each other. Like, you know, so basically what I did was I went to Jewelers Row to find a job, and I walked on the street. I went into the big building. It's called the Neff building. There's this old security guy in there, and I was like, hey, shaved head, like the whole 9 yards, like just looking nuts. I was like, hey, you know, I want to be a jeweler. Is there anybody around that needs like anybody to do anything, like running errands or anything? He's like, oh, there's a girl up on the 3rd floor that makes wax models. Go talk to her. I'm like, wax models? What's wax models? So basically what happens is when you you know, you see a piece of jewelry, a lot of times it's actually hand carved from wax. Okay, so I have an example here. So basically, I'll give you a little. So I wrote a little outline for myself so I didn't forget anything. So I'm just going to jump around this outline and we're going to flow. Stop me if you have any questions. All right, anything? That's great. I want it to be conversational. I don't want to talk at you the whole time if possible. So anyway, right here, this is a piece of wax, right? Which will turn into a ring. Now, how I do that is I have a bunch of different tools. I have files, and I have this cool, awesome thing called a flex shaft. There's my wax bench over here. This is where I do my other work. When I do the wax bench, I have to make it clean. So anyway, so he tells me to go up, talk to this woman, and this is what she does. So she's like, yeah, I need somebody, she's like, oh, you do pottery. Maybe this will work. Come in on Saturday. Let me see what you have. So I went in on a Saturday and I sat down and she had me doing these basic things, just not basic for me because I didn't know what I was doing, but she showed me and I actually did it pretty well. And she offered me a job. But the kicker was, but I can't really pay you. But when I'm going to teach you, I can't take back from you. I was like, all right, $3 an hour, $3 an hour. Mind you, this is like 20 something years ago. I'm starting to feel old as I'm talking to you guys. Oh God. Anyway, so, but it still was like nothing. Like minimum wage hasn't changed anyway. It's like $7.25 still. But so just figure that. $3 an hour. But she was right. I mean, I learned so much. And on top of learning from her, I got to meet the people that she worked with on Jewelers Row. Okay. So it opened me up to more opportunity and more sectors of the jewelry business that I didn't even know existed. Because I didn't know we carved wax, right? To make a ring. And then after that wax is carved, you bring it to somebody called a caster. Okay. So the caster is basically a house of metal. All right. So I bring that wax into him and I say, I'm going to need this in, let's say, 14 karat white. So throughout the day, he collects all the waxes that he needs, and then he winds up how he casts them. Just do a little demonstration. So what happens is, picture this. Can you see that? Probably not. Hang on. Use a thicker marker. So I'm just going to give you a quick. All right. Can you see that right there? Okay. So this is a wax rod. And on the wax rod, on the ends of it, these little things are put on there called sprues, right? So it turns into a tree. And then what we do is, so once the guy, collects all the different waxes for the day, he say this is like the 10 karat or the 14 karat flask. He goes and then he attaches the waxes on the ends of these little branches there. Can you see that? So they're all connected. So once he's done, you're looking at something with a bunch of different branches coming off and different jewelry pieces, right? So once that's all filled up, he takes it, he covers it with a tube, right? Fills it up with plaster. It's called investment. It takes real high heat. Fills that up with plaster, right? And then once the plaster hardens, he puts it in an oven. Now the oven gets super hot. What it does, it totally evaporates all the waxes in there. And then all that's left is negative space. So there's a flask over this that gets filled in, and all this empty space is plaster, right? So once that's pulled out, take it, you flip it over. So this is all a cavern here. This is all open space. This is all plaster. And then what you do is you pour the molten metal into the top of that opening, and then it flows down and fills in all the pieces. And then once that's cool, you break all that plaster off, and then you cut each piece off of the tree, and then you get a piece of raw metal, which then you have to do finishing work, cutting off the sprue, that little nub on the end, filing it, getting it ready for stone setting, things like that. So that's how that happens. So after it's cast and you do the cleanup, I would then bring it to my diamond setter. Okay, so we all work together. If you're a jeweler, it doesn't mean you know how to be great at every single step of the process. There's some designers that don't know how to solder. There's some people that solder that don't know the first thing about designing. There's, I'm a great, I'm a I'm a master wax carver, but I don't set stones. So I decided to put my focus where I could excel in an area and then work with other people in my industry to complete the task. And that's a lot of what happens in the jewelry world, in the art world, in the business world, and everything. So it all fits together. So don't think that you have to be the best at every aspect of what you're doing, because we're humans, we're people, we like to learn, we like to interact. And how do we learn? We learn by interacting with other people. Now, throughout the years, working with the diamond setters, I learned so much more. I do know how to set certain, some settings and things like that. So that's the story of Jewelers Row. So I got the job on Jewelers Row making crap money. And then throughout that time, like I said, you meet people. So I met these awesome dudes, the D. Simones, 2 jewelers, and they did all the metal work. So I was chatting with him one day. He's like, let me see what you got. Come on over. Maybe you can pull another job over here. I'm like, okay. So he taught me how to solder. He taught me how to size gold rings. He just put it in front of my face with a torch and some solder. And he said, go ahead, do it. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. So he told me and I did it, screwed it up horribly, melted like half the band. I'm sweating. I'm like, oh my God. He's like, it's fine. Now you're going to learn how to fix it. So, it was really cool. So they kept me on, and I wound up switching over working for them full time, doing repair work. I left her. She was a nut, and took advantage of me. Learned that lesson. So, and then worked for them full time. And then while I was working for them full time, I started, I wound up getting my own bench, my own jewelry bench, which I bought from somebody on the street. This thing is old. Here's my first jewelry bench right here. I mean, it's there's crap all over it. I use it for other things, but it's my first bench. So I bring that home and I started messing around and carving, doing some of my designs. And I know a lot of people. I'm a social person. So people knew what I would do, and people started commissioning me to make them jewelry. So I would take the jobs in if I knew how to do it or if I didn't, because guess what? I could find out and figure out how to do it. And that's what I did because of the network that I made being on Jewelers Row. So I started off small like that, and things were going pretty good. So I'm gonna trim a lot of fat of where I worked and what I did. And I did a stint at Tiffany and Company. That was awful. I'm not corporate whatsoever. I don't know if you get that vibe from me at all. I didn't last too long there. But so I went off on my own, and I was doing pretty good. I was selling diamonds, like people were getting platinum engagement rings. I'm like, this is awesome. Like, I'm doing what I love, and I'm actually making money, and I'm not super starving, because you don't make a lot of money when you start. I was totally undercharging. I didn't know what I was doing in that sense. And charging is a whole other animal anyway. So things were going great. And then so the recession hit in 2007, lasted 2007, 2009. So people didn't have any extra money. So extra money pays for things like, I don't know, engagement rings, necklaces, like stuff like that. They didn't have money for it. So here I am, like, okay, I guess I'm going to be walking dogs again. I guess I'm going to be serving. I guess I'm going to be doing that. And I was like bored. So I would still mess around at my bench, and I was not even carving any waxes. I'm like, you awake over there? I'm really interesting, I swear. I know you probably need a nap. So anyway, yeah, I'm calling you out. I used to be you. Anyway, so where was I? So yeah, so I wasn't even carving the waxes because I didn't have the money to turn it into metal. So one day I was sitting around, and I used to decorate my rooms. Now we're getting into the records, guys. So I used to decorate my room with old records, right? So, boom. This here is a 78. These are like super old. They're super fragile. They break like really easy. So I had these laid around. So I was like, ooh, I wonder what would happen if I started, if I grabbed.
Hey, look.
Oh, cool. Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Oh, you're cool. You are so lucky to have this guy as a teacher. He seems awesome. I would love to hang out with him if I lived down there. So I started messing around, like, see what would happen if I like filed it, if I cut it with my saws and things like that. And then, like, as I was grinding away at it with like this intense tool, the dust and everything that was coming off of it smelled like future cancer to me. So I was like, yeah, these things are like from the 20s and 30s. So like, who knows what the hell's in it? Excuse my language. So I was like, maybe that's not a good idea, but I like what it's looking like. So I luckily had some 45s laying around. Here we go. That's what you have hanging up there. So I had some of these scratched up ones laying around. So I wanted to see what would happen if I sawed into it, if I, what happened when I cut into it. And guess what? They cut a lot easier, and the smell that came off of it did not smell as harmful as the other. When I cover my face up and stuff when I do all that kind of work and everything. But so what I planned on doing with this was cutting out little circles, right, of the vinyl, and there's lines on the vinyl. So I was going to play off of the light hitting the different lines and kind of stack them and do that kind of thing. So I cut out templates. So I went up cutting out a round template one day, right? And I got cut template from an old CD case, right? So I could lay them out and then just cut all the circles. So I got up to take a break one day, and I put the template down. And when I came back, the template was sitting on the record with some of the paper and some of the vinyl, right? I was like, that looks cool. So I cut it out, right? And then I filed it and I got it to perfection and everything like that. So I was like, all right, let me wear them. They're neat. They were my favorite colors, an orange label. So I had to run an errand. I live in the city, so I can walk everywhere. And I swear to God, on my like half-hour walk up to Jewelers Row, I got stopped 3 times by people asking me about my earrings. I was like, okay, and like different people, like this old lady, this young chick, and like somebody else, I can't remember. I was like, I think I might be onto something. So on my way home, I stopped by the thrift store and I just grabbed a bunch of like crappy, banged up records that nobody could play anymore. And then I brought them home and I kind of perfected the design and grew with the design and did that. So that is the birth of the vinyl. Let me just check my notes real quick. I feel like I skipped over something. Okay, so anyway, so I started doing the making the jewelry and everything, and I had some stock, and I was like, well, I guess I should maybe do some shows. But I didn't have a table, I didn't have a tent, and the person that I was dating at the time was like, well, you should get a vending buddy. So they went and they like found me a vending buddy, and they went up being the most awesome person. They're a colleague to this day. So we started doing shows together. She did these cool stencil things, whatever. So I started doing shows and branched off on my own, did way too many shows, burnt myself out really hard on it, but got my name out there and started selling wholesale around the city and doing all that kind of thing. So that was going pretty well. So like what I did there was, okay, this is good life advice, all right? Because things aren't always going to go as you think they're planned. Stuff is going to happen that you have no control over, especially with this government. So you got to be able to pivot and think on your toes, right? So I was able to make jewelry still, afford to make jewelry still, because of the material was all recycled. I don't cut up good records. The ones that you play, I will not cut them. I only cut the bad ones. So anyway, so cheap material. So it's basically labor. And because of the material is so inexpensive for me, I could make affordable jewelry for people to buy, especially in the crappy economic climate that we were in. So that was really cool, right? That works. Anybody have any questions about what I said so far? Anybody want to tell me what a cool idea this is? No. Go ahead.
No, go for it, Carmen.
So when you like send it to like the plaster person and everything, do you like make different types of jewelry? Is it just earrings? Do you like when you send it, is it just one batch of certain type of jewelry or is it multiple?
So are you talking about the wax casting process?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that is, I'm a custom jeweler.
Okay.
So it's basically whatever that job I have is done. Now, but the caster, caster, because what happens is the metal is casted. The caster, he does multiple jewelers' orders a day. So he'll have a flask for 14 karat yellow, a different flask for silver. And then he makes the tree and builds the tree with a whole bunch of people's stuff, but that's going to be the same metal. And then we go back and then we pick it up when it's ready and give him a ton of money. Did I answer that okay?
Yes.
Cool. Who's next?
Make other types of jewelry with the record labels besides earrings?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Do you make other types of jewelry besides the earrings with the records?
Oh man, yeah. I do a bunch. So I do earrings. I do necklaces. So I have some examples. So like, yeah, you just said the earrings, boom, boom, boom. And then I added some metal on the earrings. Yay, they're really cool. Check out my website. Follow me on Instagram, Leah Creation Jewelry. What up? I'm silly, right? Then I started making like necklaces. These are cool. So yeah, I can do necklaces with the albums, and I actually added, where's the thing? And then this is guitar strings, so I do a lot of recycling things. But aside from jewelry, like for women, I do tie clips for dudes. And then I also, because I have so many records, like I have records like all over the place, in my closet, down the basement, all over. But a lot of people have been giving me the so the earrings I make out of the 45s. So I can get like the artist on there or a cool design or a label. But when I'm doing the 33 and a thirds, this is Beatles Revolver. Great album, awesome cover. Super scratched, I can make money on it. So these, I make belt buckles. Where'd it go? I just had it. I lost the belt buckle. Oh, here. I do belt buckles. That's a Def Jam. And then it's backed with that's a steel backing. I'm actually perfecting this design, so they're going to get way cooler. So I do these. And then I started doing, because not everybody wears jewelry and tie clips and belt buckles. I started doing like wall art. This is from a Beastie Boys album. And then so it's like a nice shadow box. And then sometimes I use the album cover, or I'll use like found art that'll fit it. This has like a graffiti background. So I do things like that. People have been commissioning me to like cut out silhouettes of their kids' heads and things like that. And then the album covers, because the album covers like are so cool. The art on them is amazing. I make greeting cards, and I'm actually developing a whole bunch of other things like housewares, lampshades, and a whole bunch of stuff. So keep on following along and stay in tune, because I'm doing some crazy stuff and really expanding. Who's raising? Oh, good. I love all these questions. You had in the middle, had your hand up for a bit.
People ask you to do jewelry and stuff like specific albums. Is it hard to find them that are like, because you said you only do like broken or recycled albums? Is it hard to find those sometimes?
Excellent question. Yeah, they are. Some of them are hard to find. So, like, people request all the time. I love that. And a lot of the time I can find them. But when it comes to things like, oh, I don't know, the Grateful Dead. Do you know any Deadheads that are scratching their vinyl and throwing it away? Because I don't, and I can't find them anywhere. Now, if I do find a Grateful Dead album, I'm going to be charging more for that. Same with like a scratch Santana album, a scratch Led Zeppelin. Like I call them heavy hitters. Anybody really popular. And you realize like I'm using artists for predominantly from like 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, early 90s. Because I don't cut into the good stuff. So it's hard to find, like, I'm not going to find, I don't know, like Megan Thee Stallion vinyl, like all scratched up already, or I don't know what you guys are listening to. I don't know. Was I wrong? Do you like her?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, right? Yeah, I know. I was listening to her the other day. I was like, yeah, she's got us jamming. So anyway, so yeah, so some things are harder to find, and when they're harder to find, I charge more money for that. Miss Peach?
Yeah. Do you remember like which is it album or vinyl you used for your very first pair of like earrings?
That's you know what, I used to have them. So I remember it was like a super no name, like probably something from the 50s. It was an orange label. Then I think it said Cameo on it. But I chose that because orange is like my favorite and signature color. So that's why I chose that. And I have them somewhere. I was thinking last night, I was like, oh, I should dig them up to show everybody my first pair, but they're somewhere stashed away with a bunch of crap. But that's an awesome question. But I can tell you the first pair that I really perfected, like really smooth in the sides and really like just making it a clear, cohesive, complete piece, was a pair of Motown earrings that somebody asked me to make for them. So that's when I got really serious because somebody asked me to make them for them. So they had to be perfect because I'm a perfectionist. And if I'm giving or selling something, they got to be on point. So that's how I figured that out. Awesome question. Anybody? Sleepy?
I would love to see you do like upcycle headphones, put the little like record on the ears. Like have you ever
Oh, that's a great idea. Like covers for the headphones, like dude, that's a really good idea. Thank you. What's your real name?
Sam?
Sam? Okay, I won't call you
I like
Sleepy
Sleepy
anymore.
better.
I like that idea a lot.
What is the weirdest commission you've ever gotten?
The weirdest commission I've ever done? I've had some weird, well, not weird, but just something interesting that's not jewelry. Like I made a pendant for this person, but they had all this old sentimental jewelry from like people in her family that passed over the years. So she came to me and she's like, I want to do something with all these pieces. What can we do with them? And I'm like, I can't really, melt them down, make this and that. And she really wanted to keep a lot of them intact. So I wound up making her a mobile out of all the old pieces. Like I made a mobile and like some things I wrapped with wire, I mean, it turned out really awesome. So that was something that I had to really think outside of the box because she initially came to me to preserve that by way of like jewelry, but I brought her in another direction because like I figured it would work best to keep everything as intact as she wanted in the beginning. So great question. Anybody else? Yeah.
Do you have a favorite piece that you've ever made?
I think it's my favorite. It would be my favorite piece because it's sentimental. Like for me that I made because it was something that just reminded me that's what I wanted to do all the time. But other than that, like being like a favorite sentimental piece, but my favorite pieces that I make are for people that I know, like when they're getting married, things like that, because I know I know things about the couple beforehand, and then being able to feel like that happiness while I'm making the piece. I don't know, it just brings it to another level. So that's a big thing. Like they're my favorite types. And then the other things I like doing is like the memorial jewelry or pieces, like people that have died. I'm like super duper sentimental. And I love that because people come to me with a lot of really great stories because I like a little bit of a background before I go in to do something like that. So yeah, I don't have a favorite piece, but I have favorite instances to create pieces. I'm a people person, so like I'm getting like the creativity and I'm getting to like meet people and learn things. So like it's a really cool position for me to be in. Yeah, bud.
What's your favorite music genre?
What's that?
What's your favorite music genre?
Oh, my favorite. Oh, great idea. Well, I'd love funk. I like anything that I can dance to, like funk and soul, stuff like that. I like all the oldies, like the Motown stuff. I'm a fish head, so you know, you can judge me as you will. But yeah, I think like a lot of hip hop, old school hip hop, I'm real big on. Just like all the stuff I grew up with, really. But yeah, I'm a Deadhead. I like Zeppelin. I like classic rock. I'm not in the country. Maybe a little Willie here and there, a little Johnny here and there. You a country girl? You're the country girl? Well, I like Dolly. I went to Dollywood a couple summers ago. I like Dolly, so there's that. But you know, I don't hate any music, but I prefer, you know, what I like. And I prefer things that make me dance. Because I got some moves. People have told me. Anybody else? Nope.
Can we see your moves? Can we see your dance moves?
Oh, just go on my Instagram and you can see plenty of them.
Yeah.
Has anybody looked at any of my social media stuff or my website? Yeah? What do you say? Cool? Not cool? Do I look like a nerd?
It's cash. Cool.
Cool? Okay. Does it make you want to buy stuff from me? Not you guys in general, but okay. So that's the other part of it. So if you guys good with questions for a minute, because I can tell you a couple more things of my journey. So let's just skip ahead to, you know, I was doing all that kind of, you know, I started with the vinyl and everything, but it started not, you know, I had things in my life happen, breakup and this and that, who was involved in my business. So I mean, to be like dead honest with you guys, I just got burnout. I needed a break and I wasn't sure what my direction was going to be. But you know, it was just personal stuff. And so, you know, and I was getting older and I was in my like early mid 30s and I was like, I feel like I need a job with, I don't know, insurance, you know, because that's important because like when you're, you know, an artist or self-employed, you know, you got to think about those things. And you know, like I said, I was getting older and I was like, okay, I feel like I should save some money and do, you know, doing the things that I thought I was supposed to do. So I wound up getting a job at Penn Medicine doing like, you know, patient check-in stuff. I liked it for the people aspect, but like I said before, I'm not corporate and the insurance and all that. So I mean, I did it for a bit. It actually saved my life because I found out when I was working there, when I finally got insurance, like after I was working there for about a year and a half, that I had cervical cancer. Bum, bum, bum. Yeah, it happened to me. Crazy, right? Get your paps, ladies. It's a serious thing. So yeah, that sucked. But I was so happy that I had that job because like I probably wouldn't have even known because I wasn't going to the doctor. So I came back from like that and I'm fine now. Everything's like super good. Like I'm super healthy. Everything's great. 5 years out. I just finished all that. So like I'm awesome. And when I came back, I was there for a bit and I got fired. You know, I could give you excuses and reasons, but it is what it is, like whatever. But it was a good thing that happened. I mean, I got fired for being late. I just, you know, it was just the manager is a whatever. I'm not going to get into it. Anyway, so I was like, okay, this wasn't for me. I was there for when I needed to be. And then I wound up going back to Jewel. I was right by Jewelers Row. The woman that I worked for, my first job on Jewelers Row, I bumped into her. She's like, hey, do you want to work for me? I need somebody. And, you know, and I just heard that, you know, you're not at Penn anymore. I was like, yeah, I'll come in and talk to you. Well, wouldn't you know, she was worse than the first time around. Totally underpaid me, like total nut. Tried to get me to join her like Landmark Forum cult. It was like a crazy thing, right? So I left and I went and I started serving and I was still like, anyway, I was still making the jewelry, but I wasn't doing it on like a big scale. You know, I'd make them for people if they wanted them, or I'd like still do some like custom jewelry and everything, but I wasn't focusing on advertising that to make a sustainable living for myself because I was a little lost, you know what I mean? And then I started serving and then the pandemic happened. So yeah, it really sucked for many people, lots of death and like craziness and like all of it. I still have PTSD from every bit of it, but it was good for me professionally and mentally and all of that. So I really just like, I was able to like, you know, hunker down. I couldn't do anything else. And I really just jumped back on my vinyl and expanded it and did all that. So after that expanded, and then I kind of like reemerged on the social media and people were freaking out about it like they've never seen it before. Then I did take like a mini break. So I gained more excitement about it by accident, kind of. And then I started moving forward, made the website, you know, I started taking business class here and there, got in touch with the small business development center, started applying for grants, and just really put my focus on, and that is where I am now. So now like things are going pretty cool, man. Like wholesales are coming in. I just sent a bunch of jewelry to Slow Down Nola on Magazine Street. I don't know if you guys are near there. She just got like 40 pair of earrings from me the other day. You know, so yeah, just like pulling all the different wholesales, trying to get them in, you know, a lot of music cities, working on a business plan. And then I'll give you a little inside scoop. I'm working on a new fine jewelry line, which is it's going to be called the Final line, FYNL. So I have made some things, but I'm developing some models to introduce it. But basically what I do is, and what I've done is I have been setting vinyl in like 14 karat rings, silver rings, gold rings, setting vinyl in there like stones. So I just made a couple wedding bands for a couple that I set in it's a 14 white gold band, and then there is an inlay of a piece of a Clash record, and it's held in by a diamond. They're on my Instagram. If you scroll through, you might see people with them. But anyway, so I'm developing a line where I am taking my fine jewelry knowledge and all the things I like about that, taking this my little vinyl baby that I created, and then combining them, and then bringing them up to a different price point. So my plan basically, see, everything, like things just happen as they happen. But so the plan is, you know, hire somebody hopefully sooner than later so I can keep up with the wholesales. Okay, have that be like my paycheck, and then that will alleviate me time to design, develop, and market my final line, and then move forward with there. So that's the plan. And then there's a whole other thing, because like with this vinyl idea, like I didn't know when I thought of it how big this was going to be for me, you know, like because there's so many parts of the record, you know, the album cover, the record, the music that's behind it, the idea that's behind it, the things that are in the album covers, the inserts, like that can all be used for art. People love, and I do, people love nostalgia. You know what I mean? Like when you see like an old toy of yours or something, if you're down the basement and you see like an old stuffed animal, don't you just stop and hold it, and then you just reminisce and remember, and most of the time it puts a smile on your face. Well, that's what I want my jewelry or my art or whatever to do for people. You know what I mean? I want them to, you know, kind of just take a step back out of like the present, go back to a happier time for a little bit, and then just, you know, use those memories. So and it's all there with the vinyl. Not to mention, like, there's so many vinyls that are thrown away, and that stuff goes into landfills, and that's just around forever. So I know I'm not making a huge dent on it, but I'm making I'm doing pretty good with taking some away. Especially, like, you should see my house. I have like way too many, and that's at the point where people give me a lot of like albums from like their basements and everything, and I have a hard time getting rid of them, because like there might be an artist that I've never heard of, but their album covers like real weird or really funny, and I'm like, oh, I can use that for something for the future. Like I said, because I want to use those for the different homewares, like lampshades, things like that. So, Leah Creation, when I came up with my business, when I came up with my business name, I didn't know that this was going to be, my name's Leah. My business name's Leah Creation. I never put Leah Creation Jewelry on it or any of that. I just made it Leah Creation LLC. And I'm super happy I did that right now because Leah Creation LLC can be so many different things. That's Leah Creation Fine Jewelry, Leah Creation Vinyl, Leah Creation Art, Leah Creation Homewares. You see, Spaceballs the movie, Spaceballs the word. You guys haven't seen Spaceballs, have you? Robbie, did you get my joke?
Yeah, I got you.
So, when you think of, when you think about things and what I'm saying is like, you don't know. Really, you might have an idea of your path, but so many things, like I find, come up in the path that kind of change your trajectory, make you pivot a little bit, make you think. And that's important because like the more that you learn and the more mistakes you make, like the better you'll become. And I'm definitely living proof of that. Since we're at a Catholic school, I can't really get into the nitty gritty, but follow along and you'll get an idea. Any questions, guys?
Can we see, we got, what, about 12 minutes left.
I probably have more stuff to talk. Oh, you know what I'm going to show you too? Because I had a couple things set out with that wax or whatever. So I was telling you, like, I carve the wax, but there's also, it can be done by computer. And I didn't even get into this whole computer and me and not using it and everything like that. So there's certain things that people want that are way too intense it could be carved, but like seriously, if you're thinking about time and money and like making things so precise, sometimes it's just smarter to go to the computer route. It all depends on what the customer wants. But I have an example of something that, so the waxes, where's the camera at? Okay, there's a wax. So I just made this wedding band. It's up on if you look at my Instagram today, I did, I think there's a post up of it, but this here is, you probably can't see it. Can you see that?
Yeah. Yeah, we see.
See how detailed that is? Now this was grown from a computer. Okay, so what happened was, so I had a client that wanted something, kind of filigree, kind of antique-y, and gave me a bunch of different, parameters that she wanted, and sent me some pictures, and I went and I had designed it. So that I knew it was definitely going to I would have to go to my guy. I have somebody that I work with specifically, that I work with for years. He gets my vision when I send him my sketches and my specs. So basically what happens is I draw out what she wants with all the measurements and specs. I send it over to him, and then he puts all his numbers and things in the computer and makes a rendering of that, and then he sends that back to me, and then I approve it or tell him to change things, and then once that's done, he prints out that piece that I had just showed you. So so computers are a huge help. When the CAD first started really getting like the thing, I guess maybe like 6 or so years after I started like mastering what I was doing, the CAD came around and I like turned my nose up at it. I'm like, that's not making real jewelry. You're not, you know what I mean? You're not carving that. You're just typing it in on a computer. And that was just me being a snob. And then me just like, I don't know, not wanting to change. But then over time, I'm like, oh, well, what computers do make things, a little bit easier and a little bit more precise. And as I started, checking it out, and my friend actually brought me in, he's like, watch me do this. And he's like, maybe you'll want to learn. I was like, no, I do not want to learn that, all the lines and I'm an analog girl. It's just how I am. But he basically showed me, he's like, yeah, he's like, some customers, they want that handmade look, but other customers want like the right out of the jewelry case look, so I can achieve 2 different looks. One by me doing it, the handmade or whatever, and I can get things really tight if I need to, or something that is intense like that, I send over to my CAD guy. And so there's like pros and cons with that. Now with computers and my records, so I cut them all by hand, right? So I use my saw and I use my files and everything, and I do shows, and a lot of times people come up and they don't, I have to tell them that I do that because everybody assumes that I'm using lasers in a computer program. I am not using lasers in a computer program. There's a few different reasons for that. With a computer program, it would basically have to be a program that has like just this shape of a record in and then shapes cut out, and it would just do the same thing on every one. So it wouldn't give me any like artistic freedom, because what my jewelry is about is like the shapes and the things that I capture on there. Like this says soul on it. So you know what I mean? So I can pick and choose where I want them and where I use them. So they're not getting done as quickly, but they're being more intentional. Therefore, I'm not or will never, use lasers unless it gets precise, or, I'm that big and I have to do that. But as so far now with the technology, the lasers can't do what my creative brain does. You know what I mean? So with computers, it has to be structure, 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 structure. But if a person's doing it, it's a little looser, a little more, a little bit more creativity can be put in there, if that makes any sense.
A lot.
So yeah, I'm not hating on computers or anything. Except when like I can't figure out how to hook my camera up to this so I can see you on a better screen. But anyway, yeah. Any questions, guys? Like anything. It doesn't even have to be about my art.
Yeah.
Sam?
Okay.
What does the cup in the back say?
Assistant. to
back
the
here?
regional manager.
Let's see, what do we got? Just some little pictures I have hanging up. That is where I hang like the jewelry that I did. I'll give you a little tour. This is where I take my pictures after the jewelry's done. This is all my stock. So when I make them, I have them separate so I know what I need to make. So I made this thing myself. It fell on me the other day though. I was like bending down and the whole thing fell on my back and everything came off. Oh my God. So that's that. There's my printer, my bookshelf, my out back, and then this is where I do all my wax work. And this is where I do all the vinyl work. And then here, just some more artwork and stuff, pictures. There's some stickers from the cult that I follow. Fish. They're not a cult. Well, anyway. Anybody else?
Do you have do you have any, well, let's just say, if you are making a lightning bolt, David Bowie set of earrings, do you or have you made kind of a rule with yourself that you're going to listen to Bowie while you're doing that?
It's so funny. Sometimes I will put on the artist while I'm doing that. I just made a couple Bowie art pieces. I did a show a couple weeks ago, and I listened to Bowie the whole time I did that for inspiration.
Yeah.
So a lot of times I'll definitely put on the artist that I'm working on just for inspiration, and then it gives me something to like listen to that I don't normally listen to, because I'll just like pop on the Pandora or the Sirius or the Spotify. Can't get enough of like not having to think about the music, and the music just plays for me, but then I find myself listening to the same damn things all the time. So I'm not exposed to anything new. So yeah, that's always nice. And I have done Bowie. I do have Bowie bolt earrings. I have a template for that. Here's the templates. So I made, I don't know if you can see in there, in here are a whole bunch of different templates that I made throughout the years. There's just like hundreds of them. I mean, I don't use all of them or whatever. So basically what I did was I got CD cases and then I cut the templates out of it. because I'm recycling and reusing the CD cases. But I stopped using CD cases and wound up buying some plastic from a plastic store near me because I find that a lot of the CD cases are crappily made and really brittle. And I do a lot of detailed templates. Like people ask me to do dogs and animals and I mean anything under the sun. So the CD cases were fragile, and I've so many times I've cut things, and at the very end, trying to get around a curve, I broke the whole thing. So I had to graduate and basically spend money on plastic, but that's fine. I recycle a lot of stuff, so I don't feel too bad about it.
Leah, you showed us the 360 of your studio, but there seems to be something, missing that would make sense, but maybe not, and that's a turntable.
That's downstairs. I can't fit my studio is so small, and like things are piled on top of you. I've definitely outgrown my studio,
Right.
but I'm not. I refuse to rent a studio. So when we buy a house, hopefully in the next couple of years, I will be at a bigger place because that's going to be where I'll be working, because I got too accustomed to being able to be right near all of my stuff. You know what I mean? It's just like, because I can go in and do stuff whenever I want. Having a studio, having to leave, like the pandemic really screwed me up, man. Like I don't leave the house as much as I used to. And I was a social butterfly. So, I mean, I pick and choose like where I go now, and like, is it even worth it to like, it's really screwed up. The pandemic really did a number on me that way.
Well, I'm glad you had this to explore during that down time.
Oh yeah, it was amazing. The thing was, like, I actually had the time, because I was like, when I was serving and everything, I was doing my stuff, but I wasn't doing it to a scale or on a level where I was going to be really heavily reselling like I am now, and like doing all that kind of stuff. And that's where I wanted to be, like, but to be honest with you, I didn't know it was possible for me. So I gained a lot of confidence also over the years, and that is a huge takeaway, guys. Like, just be confident. Like, don't doubt yourself. Just do it. And if you do it wrong, whatever. If somebody laughs at you, okay, then you'll do it better the next time. Like, people can go, you know what I mean? Like, just do your thing, be confident in what you do, and just make you feel better about it. And that's the way you grow. No fear. No fear.
We are 90 seconds away from the bell. Thank you so very much.
Sure. Thank you.
I encourage you all to like Leah's the first person that I've traded with other art chatters or gotten to work afterwards, but Leah, I got her stuff for my daughter and some of my daughter's friends, and the packaging is great, and I loved that you sell individual earrings too, because my daughter and one of her friends were just wanting to buy, just wearing a single, and I got one of those Bowie lightning bolts.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
So it's quality, enjoyable, as you say, nostalgic, good stuff. So
and I do love custom orders too, like when people are looking for that artist or a song for an anniversary or anything. Like, honestly, guys, I can do anything under the sun. And that's the beauty of it.
And if we came across a 45 or something and sent it to you, and it was still in good condition, but we gave you permission to cut into it, you would. All right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. There's a yes. Like, if somebody hands me a good record along with some money, I say yes.
All right. Well, Leah, I will get you this video, and we thank you very much.
Thank you so much, guys. This was fun. You're really awesome. Have a great senior year if you're seniors. Keep that painting up. Thanks, Robbie.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, Leah, very much. All right.